Hi, guys. Welcome to our Spotlight series by the Next Level podcast. I'm joined today by our co-hosts Josh Eels and George Woodley. I myself, Kabir Bubna. I'm going to look through a game week 3 fixture between Sheffield United and Leeds United. We're going to talk everything, formations, tactics, and expectations from the game. This game in itself is important as we see Sheffield United are susceptible to their second season syndrome, and Leeds United, obviously their competitors 2 seasons ago in the championship. So guys, what do you guys feel will come out from this game?
I'll start. Realistically, it's two, like you said, it's two different types of teams coming into the Premier League season. Sheffield United having success of their first season, now having their second season syndrome, whereas Leeds being out of the game for out of the top league for almost 2 decades. It's probably going to offer more recent sort of championship-like fixture, but with a more amount of velocity behind it due to the amount of calibre that the both teams have been able to bring in transfer-wise.
So I think leading off the back of that, you mentioned sort of a championship-esque fixture maybe in the running for the weekend. And I think I'd probably agree with you there. I think there'll be lots of goals. Both teams very good going forward, but not necessarily the best at the other end of the game when defending. So I think we could be in for another 7-goal thriller possibly.
Well, let's look at how both teams have stacked up in their past few games. Obviously, starting off the season in game week 1, Liverpool leads 4-3, followed by a Sheffield United loss against Wolves 2-0, and then Leeds coming to beat Fulham, so 4-3. So we've seen Leeds can score, and we've also seen Leeds have a problem defending. Sheffield United, however, have only scored a total of 0 goals. It's actually appalling as they've only registered 3 shots on target, the lowest chances created within the whole league, which is detrimental and significantly different to how they played last season. I mean, if we're talking about second season syndrome, it's only appropriate that we look at the team last season. So Chris Wilder, I mean, a huge fan favorite by the Blades, by the fans and the management, you know, bringing a team from League One from promotion League One in 2016-2017 season, and then only spending 2 seasons of the championship, which is absolutely amazing. You know, many would categorize Sheffield as like a little band of misfits. Not much transfer window spending prior to joining the Premier League, and many would, and I placed them, and many others did place them as a regulation fodder team coming in last season. What are your thoughts on
that? Yeah, no, totally. I mean, Sheffield United written off the start of last season, straight up relegation side for me. Never thought they would get that high up and almost push for a European position. Chris Wilder's got quite a successful CV previously with the likes of Northampton and Oxford. You know, he's been successful with them. And yeah, obviously him bringing in players, obviously losing Dean Henderson as well in goal was probably a massive hit. He pretty much kept him alive in most games last season. So yeah, it's probably going to be one of those games, like Josh said. It's probably going to be end-to-end stuff. Pretty much whoever scores the most goals, it's going to be whoever scores most goals is going to win, really. So
yeah, I think off the back of that, with Dean Henderson leaving and going back to Manchester United, I guess he was kind of a bit of their X factor last year, and he was a phenomenal goalkeeper and still is. I guess the jury's still out. Will he replace De Gea at Man U? That's for another time to talk about. Obviously, he's a phenomenal goalkeeper, getting spoken about in the same circles as Pickford and Pope, etc., etc. So I think losing him will be a big blow to Sheffield, not just for this game, but throughout the course of the season. Because in front of the goalkeeper there at Sheffield, they can have quite a leaky defence at times.
I mean, to further back up your points there, a little statistic from Henderson's 1920 season. He kept 10 clean sheets, second to only Nick Pope of Burnley, and only conceded 22 goals in all his appearances. That to show Sheffield only conceded 25 goals all season. That was 12th. They ranked 12th across all teams in the top 5 leagues across the world. So that includes teams from the Bundesliga, La Liga, Serie A, and Ligue 1, including the Premier League, obviously. So, I mean, defensively, I think Sheffield are a great team. And I think that's huge prop to Chris Wilder, who manages to call 100% out of all his players. Because if you really look at their roster, before Dean Henderson and arguably like maybe McBurney and Lundstrom, they don't have a star. They each player 1 through 11 play their role and understand the fundamentals of the game. They all come together to band a really cohesive unit, and I think that's what's kept them in the Prem, and that's what helped them get 9th last season. Another interesting stat: for each shot that they faced, a team had to average 49 passes. That is a lot of passes amongst teams, and like it be observed, not every pass is progressive. So this means they're very good at laterally defending teams. They can press and control teams back in their halves, or forcing maybe long balls. And I think Sheffield United, second to only Burnley, have won the most aerial duels as well. So this definitely plays in their favor. I think I would have to disagree with you there, Josh, in the sense that they can look leaky sometimes, and they have at the start of this season. Obviously, with losses to Henderson, I think they can still hold on to it once they find that rhythm again with Aaron Ramsdale and other replacements that they have in their squad.
Mm-hmm. So I guess off the back of that, let's get into how they play and the shape and formation, should we?
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered it. A 3-5-2 is how they play. Somewhat unconventional when it comes to the Prem. You know, it's very hard to see such a cluttered midfield, but it obviously works for them as Chris Wilder implements an overlapping centre-back formation. This essentially means like Basham and O'Connell, their starting centre-backs, get to press up further up the field, create an offensive overload, and then one of their central midfielders can then cover and balance their team, making sure they're not susceptible to pacey counterattacks from the wing.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting because at the weekend it'll be 2 completely different systems going up against each other. Sort of obviously with Sheffield, you kind of look at it, maybe it's sort of a lateral rotation side to get themselves up the pitch that way, whereas Leeds, different style, more of a vertically rotating side. So sort of by that I mean is that they have players that kind of drop in between the midfield lines of the other team. So usually in between their defensive line and their midfield line, or their midfield line and their attacking line, and that helps create space, not just for people to receive the ball, but also for players to get the ball themselves. So, for example, George, you mentioned just before we started, you think Bamford will be trying to be playing on the shoulder of their back 3 most of the afternoon. I completely agree with you. Say, for example, if Rodrigo or Phillips or Kilic can try and get into between the back 3 and the midfield 5 of Sheffield, then there's plenty of room and time on the ball for them to receive the ball to then play Bamford in, and then hopefully it'll be 2-on-1 against them if either Helder Costa or Harrison push on as well. So it's a big sort of, if you look over to what Sheffield will be doing, big reliance on their wing backs to be up and down all day with Helder Costa and Harrison. Otherwise, there'll be 3-on-3 for much of the afternoon, and then that's why I think it lends itself to a high-scoring game.
Leeds obviously going in 4-1-4-1. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it's a formation I don't think is given a lot of voice about across managers. Managers want to play that attacking flair, 3 up front or 2 up front. with Phillips in the middle, he can do that job, and he's proven to do that job. To almost, cut the passing lanes and, and cut out the main players for the opposition. They've brought in, Robert Koch from Freiburg. I watched him during the restart, and he was a very good defender there. Bamford going in, running off the last shoulder of the defenders, being able to be that quick. Is he clinical? He is, but I don't know whether he's that strong enough in the Premier League. He's only proved it really in the Championship. He's got a few games in. Can't really judge him for it. Judge him after Christmas. There's him, and then you got Helder Costa. He's played for Wolves, played in the Premier League. He's in form at the moment. I just think realistically he's a player that's going to push for that main player at Leeds United. So and obviously Rodrigo coming in for them definitely bolster. He's played Champions League football, so he knows his way around of playing in the big leagues, big players around him. So
I think it's quite interesting, isn't it? Obviously, we speak about the formation. I touched upon it earlier as well. With that formation, you've sort of got your three central defensive players. So you've got your two centre-halves, and then you've got Phillips, sort of as the holding midfield player. And obviously, he's got a big role in pulling the strings and getting them going forward, but sort of out of possession of the ball. And say if Ayling and whoever's going to be playing at left back will have progressed on to help out Costa and Harrison, or whoever's going to be playing on that flank in the matches, then you've still got the defensive three through the middle to protect the keeper, which I think is, like you said, George, it's an underrated and underspoken about formation, which I think could see them do quite well with this year. Obviously, with both formations kind of having 5 players across the midfield, that's where the game will be won or lost. If your midfielders turn up on the day at the weekend, then for me, you've won the game. It's not up to the defenders, and obviously the strikers are still got to finish, but for the majority of the game, it'll be won or lost through the middle for me. 5v5. Obviously, a lot of in other games, you see midfielders with different shapes sort of losing out in the midfield or whatever, just because there's an overload or an underload. But it looks like it's quite a flat 5 for both of them across the middle, and I think that'll be where makes a difference, really.
Okay, so question for you guys. Put yourselves in Chris Wilder's shoes. You've just come off 2 back-to-back losses, which and now you've missed out on the presence of Dean Henderson. You substituted Aaron Ramsdale, which by no means is a downgrade. Might lack a bit of quality, but definitely can fill the shoes. What is your 3 main objectives, and are you happy with a draw? Because according to our predictions, it's very unlikely that Sheffield will walk away from this fixture with 3 points in hand. So what is something that they can ensure that Leeds United at least drop points and they can finally register their first points for this of the season?
It's a tough one. You ask us to put ourselves in Chris Wilder's shoes, and I see that coming up with 2 possible outcomes in the week. He'll probably be thinking about, do I stick with what I know and what I've done over the past few years so very well, or do I twist? I've lost the first 2 games of the season. I've lost my captain. If you lose 3, you've got the tendency to lose 4 in a row, and then you're getting a bit of a rut. And then coming up towards Christmas, you've not got many points on the board. So it's a tough one. But if I was him, I'd be tempted to twist this weekend. You've obviously lost the captain. It's as good a chance as any to change the shape and see how the guys can adapt to a different style of play.
100%. I agree with Josh on the first one about Wilder losing his players. Does he have that opportunity? If I'm honest, I probably will go against Josh. I reckon he might stick if he has depth in his squad. and then also has a leader-like player out on the pitch, then I reckon he might stick and try work his magic, I would say. Like last season, he proved it playing the same formation against the big boys. Yeah, okay, he's lost his skipper, but I do think he could fit, the 3-5-2 and adapt it to different players and see if they can fit it. Could he do it before the next sort of big few games afterwards against Chelsea, Liverpool? He does it against Leeds and it works. Morale's high. But like you said, if it doesn't work out, he's going to have to do something. And like you said, Josh, it's going to have to change.
But it really showcases the difficulties a manager might face, because everyone talks about the first 5 games of your season can definitely define it. I mean, you've seen it with many great squads as well. Liverpool started the season so strong last year, scoring goals, and they just didn't seem to come back to ground. They stayed on that cloud nine for so long. It worries me that Sheffield United have yet to register a goal and not even a shot on target in their last game. Hopefully things do turn forward to the game. I myself predict a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, last game they didn't register a shot. Their possession at the end of the game reached 28% compared to Leeds. They played 50% against Fulham. But they were managing to be able to have shots on goal. Even off target, they're still challenging. They look in that pose for threat. It's the decision of whether Wilder sticks or twists. Either way, I think Leeds will come out a little bit stronger. I see Leeds coming out on top. So realistically, I see sort of 2-1 Leeds, I reckon. If Sheffield United don't tend to pose a threat, I see Leeds winning probably 3-1, 3-0.
So it's an interesting point I'm going to make here, and a bit of a contradiction, a controversial one. So, Cabs, you asked me if I was in Chris Wilder's shoes, what I'd do, and I said I'd twist. But if I was Chris Wilder, and what I think Chris Wilder's probably going to do is he'll probably stick, like George said. And for me, if he sticks, they get beaten 3-1 by Leeds. I think Leeds come out on top there quite comfortably. I think it might be a case of concede a couple in the first half and then Sheffield nick one in the second half and then Leeds put it to bed towards the end. I think, for me, I don't know why, but I just think that's the way it's going to go. But I could be wrong.
United definitely have a lot to prove. Sheffield United have definitely rubbed it in their faces, saying we've only been in the Championship 2 years. You've been there for 16. We got there from League One to the Prem before you guys. Leeds winning this makes a huge statement, not only within the Prem, but within this little Yorkshire derby that they will now create, given Sheffield don't go down this season.
But yeah, no, I mean, going back to the game, I think Leeds, like I said earlier, 4-1, 4-1's on the team sheet. But I think if they have that threat to score goals proven, 3 against the champions. How many teams last season scored 3 against Liverpool? And not many, if not any of the teams, out of 18 others. And I really think then they'll probably change it up from a 4-1-4-1 to probably a 4-1-3-2 or 4-2-3-1. Given that Bamford's ability to be on that shoulder and Helder Costa and Rodrigo, that freedom to use their pace, use their skill and their experience in the Premier League to beat those players. But yeah, no, I see Leeds coming out on top, 3-1, 2-1, depending on how Wild puts it out to the game on Saturday.
Thank you everyone for tuning into the Next Level Spotlight. Look forward to the games in Game Week 3, and we definitely look forward to seeing you in our next episode where we talk all things Game Week 3 and we recap our predictions on this episode.